It's time now for one more thing. Juan, what do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to be off for the next couple of days. My family has one of those major moments coming up this weekend. My youngest son, Rafi, is marrying Morgan in her home state of Massachusetts. Rafi and Morgan live in D.C., which is where they got engaged 2 years ago. Here's some photos from that magical moment. He surprised her doing a run, intercepting her at the Washington Monument to ask the big question. Morgan's an only child, and that makes it all the more special for her mom and her dad, especially her mom, Donna. But it's also very special for me and for my wife.
Oh, so sweet.
See our baby come to this joyous day. Good luck to Morgan and Rafi.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
So sweet. He's such a family guy.
I'm a dad.
God bless you. That's wonderful.
Follow that, Jesse.
All right, well, speaking of dads, I was with my dad yesterday at the Mill River Club in Long Island at the Planting Fields Foundation Golf Classic. There we are there. Al was our caddy. He did a great job for me. It's a foundation that pairs up with the New York State Office of Parks to give, various recreational activities to the public at this huge arboretum in Oyster Bay. My dad actually won a golf bag at the raffle. There he is there, very excited. He was with Peter Tiberio, who organized the events, the treasurer of the foundation. We had a very nice time, and I didn't cheat very much at all when I played.
Wow. All right, Jesse, good job. We're
That's
proud
an
of you.
annual event for you.
Annual event.
Hi, Dana.
Okay, I want you to meet 99-year-old Martha Heft. She learned to sew when she was just 5 years old, and now her sewing skills are making headlines. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office recently released a video showcasing how she and her daughter and the ladies from her Methodist church group were able to sew 60 dresses made out of donated pillowcases, and they sent them to a Puerto Rican orphanage. And they were assisting the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office was in Puerto Rico. They were assisting law enforcement to help people after the devastation of Hurricane Maria, and they were joined by Martha's daughter. So she's quite amazing, Martha Heft, at 99 years old. Listen to her here.
How many more years are you going to be doing this?
As long as God grants me life and health, I'm happy to do it. I just wish I had a little more speed.
So she can make even more. Anyway, thank you, Martha, for all you do.
I know a guy.
How sweet is that, though? Because people forget about Puerto Rico. It's so nice that she's doing that, for the children.
She would do it anyway. And actually, they were very cute little dresses, too.
Adorable. My mom used to sew all my dresses. Very sweet.
Same
It's
here.
a very loving thing to do. Okay.
No, my mom did sew all my clothes. That was something they did. Remember they used to buy the little patterns?
Yes.
In the back and the sewing, and they were like these crinkly paper. It was very strange. Anyway, podcast. It's great. Michael Malice. We talk about the latest North Korea stuff. He's really good on it. That's foxnewspodcast.com, and I just tweeted it so you can find there. But first, or second, I hate these people. Yeah, I haven't done one of these in a while. You know why? Because it's vacation time. It's almost time to go away. You're probably going somewhere, and when you go somewhere, you're going to be in a hotel. And what are you going to do? Hotel? You can see a little sign in the bathroom that says, you know what? Please reuse your towels to help the environment. Here's a suggestion. Don't. Use as many towels as you damn please. It's your vacation. You paid it. It's expensive. Use your towels. They're pretending that it's helping the environment. No, they're just saving money on water and detergent. So use the towels and be happy you're using them. Because we're America, and America's about towels.
I just don't know where this went so terribly wrong. Okay. Why do you always ask to have my towel, Greg? Just saying. All right. Father and son welcome their mother home. Well, the son's mom home from a business trip with this little embarrassing sign. Take a look. There we have it. And this is one Oklahoma woman returning home from a week-long business trip. And they played a little joke, quite a welcome from her husband and young son at the airport. Barbara Nielsen was standing at the baggage claim when she spotted her son Damien. Welcome home from prison, Mom.
That's
very cute Facebook post. All right, set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five Special Report. Up next, hey, Bret, with a big show.
Hey, Kimberly, thanks. This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Bret Baier in Washington. Coming up in just a minute, my one-on-one interview with President Trump aboard Air Force One following his historic summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. First, tonight's headlines. President Trump says there is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. That was part of a Twitter spree today as the president arrived back in Washington. The president also challenging skeptical media coverage of his historic trip, declaring fake news is the nation's biggest enemy. Several lawmakers from both parties pushing back on the president's Twitter characterizations today. The president's personal lawyer is searching for a new legal team to represent him in an FBI investigation of his business dealings. Fox News is being cautioned, however, tonight against drawing a conclusion that Michael Cohen is cutting a deal with prosecutors, as is being reported by other news outlets tonight. And the United Nations General Assembly is blaming Israel for violence at its border with Gaza. The U.S. had called for a condemnation of Hamas, which has organized almost weekly protests there, but the UN rejected that request. And the Justice Department Inspector General's report on the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails is expected out tomorrow. Fox News is told President Trump will be briefed on that report in the morning. As President Trump was leaving Singapore, I talked with him aboard Air Force One about the summit and what's next. That summit was highly produced and choreographed down to a very specific pitch meant to appeal to the movie-loving, pop culture-obsessed Kim Jong-un.
We will solve a big problem, a big dilemma that until this point has been unable to be solved.
After the pool cameras left the bilateral meeting, President Trump and his team pulled out an iPad to show the North Korean dictator and his team a highly produced 4-minute video put together by the National Security Council.
Destiny Pictures presents a story of opportunity, a new story, a new beginning, one of peace, 2 men, 2 leaders, 1 destiny. A story about a special moment in time when a man is presented with one chance that may never be repeated. What will he choose? To show vision and leadership? Or not? There can only be 2 results. One of moving back. Or one of moving forward.
The slick movie trailer was then shown to a packed news conference.
I hope you liked it. I thought it was good. I showed it to him today, actually during the meeting, toward the end of the meeting. And I think he loved it. About 8 of their representatives were watching it, and I thought they were fascinated by it. I thought it was well done.
The president then spent more than an hour answering journalist questions, more than 3 dozen of them, even mentioning the specific real estate pitch he used with Kim Jong-un.
They have great beaches. You see that whenever they're exploding their cannons into the ocean, right? So I said, boy, look at that. Wouldn't that make a great condo behind? And I explained, I said, you know, instead of doing that, you could have the best hotels in the world right there. Think of it from a real estate perspective.
From the press conference on Sentosa Island, a 20-minute motorcade to an airbase in Singapore to board his ride home, Air Force One. Thanks for the time. What is this, 26 hours?
20, I'm now on my 26th. We've been negotiating with some very good negotiators. Yeah. Nice to be with you.
Thank you for having us. You took every question in the news conference.
I took a lot of them, and we had a lot of reporters. I don't know if you saw that room, but the credentials were like record kind of numbers, and I took as many as I could. People are really happy about it, even I would say non-Trump fans. People are really happy. It's something that I'm very proud of. Now, with that being said, I want to get it done. But I believe that Chairman Kim wants to get it done.
You do? I mean,
I do.
There was one part of the news conference, I think you were kind of joking, that 6 months from now you could say this was a mistake and
sure.
I'm never going to tell you
joking. That could happen. I mean, all of a sudden.
But you don't believe that?
It's deals, whether it's this, and which is so important, or buying a building or doing whatever you may be doing. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But I said, I only consider it successful if it gets done. I think we've done something very historic already in one way, but to me, a success is when it gets done.
Is the military drawing down in South Korea? You kind of hinted at that. And is there going to be this kind of tit for tat?
No, it's not drawing down at all. In fact, honestly, it was never discussed. I'm sure he'd like that. It was never on the table. We, when I met him today, we have a very good relationship, I feel. I feel it's good. You know, we know when we have chemistry. You know it as well as anybody, and you understand what I mean. But when I met him today, we had done 3 months, almost 4 months worth of work prior to my meeting. So we sort of understood that was never on the table. With that being understood, and you know, you ask me a question like that, I would love to get the military out as soon as we can, because it costs a lot of money, and a lot of money for us. We don't get paid fully for that military, which, you know, I'll be talking to South Korea about. But we have 32,000 soldiers in South Korea. I'd like to get them home. I would like to, but it is not on the table right now. At the appropriate time, it will be.
But do you think China looks at this and says, well, this is kind of what we want? North Korea that's under control, a U.S. that's maybe disengaging from the region?
No, I think China really would like to see no nuclear weapons, you want to know the truth. Because, look, whether you're semi-friendly with a nation or not, when they have nuclear weapons and you're that close, it can't be a positive feeling. It just can't be. So China's been very helpful. I think over the last 2 months, maybe less so. I think the border got a little bit more open. Now, it didn't affect today's negotiation, but I think the border opened up a little bit more because China could be a little bit upset about trade, because we're very strongly clamping down on trade.
How strong?
Well, I think very strongly. I mean, you'll see over the next couple of weeks. They understand what we're doing. With that being said, I have a very good relationship with President Xi of China. He's, you know, an incredible guy. They just, you know, essentially president for life. Yeah. It's pretty good.
So North Korea, you know, they've agreed to things before. They've agreed to several things before.
Yeah, but that's with a different president, and nobody's taken it this far, and presidents have never met with anybody from North Korea. It's been, you know, delegated to other people. And even if they did meet, they wouldn't have been able to pull it off. But this is something that should have been done years ago. I mean, you've heard me say it many times. This should have been done 10 years, 15, 20 years ago. This shouldn't be done now where they have an arsenal of nuclear weapons. This should have never allowed to get to this point. With that being said, Chairman Kim wants to resolve the problem because he knew that we weren't playing around. I wasn't playing around. He's not playing around. We have a very, I really say for a fairly short-term relationship, because it was unbelievably hostile, the rhetoric. Rhetorically, it was unbelievably hostile. And I think we have a very good relationship. We understand each other.
You know, you were asked in the press conference a number of different times in different ways about human rights. And, you know, that you called this relationship really good and that he was a very talented person. You know, you call people sometimes killers. He is a killer. I mean, he's clearly executing people.
He's a tough guy. Hey, when you take over a country, tough country, with tough people, and you take it over from your father, I don't care who you are, what you are, how much of an advantage you have. If you can do that at 27 years old, I mean, that's 1 in 10,000 that could do that. So he's a very smart guy. He's a great negotiator. But I think we understand each other.
But he's still done some really bad things.
Yeah, but so have a lot of other people done some really bad things. I mean, I could go through a lot of nations where a lot of bad things were done. Now, look, with all of that being said, the answer is yes. I'm going from today. I'm going from maybe 90 days ago, because we really started this. We got a call that he was going to the Olympics. He would like to go to the Olympics, and that was sort of the beginning of what we have right now. And we're very far down the line. You saw the agreement. Nobody thought we were going to have an agreement like that. And things were given to me, as you know from the news conference, things were given to me, Bret, that were not even part of the agreement. I got them after we had signed the agreement.
And so verification, you're confident you can set up the system?
I'm totally confident. And if we can't have a deal. I mean, we have to be, it has to be verified. But one of the things that really I'm happy is that the soldiers that died in Korea, their remains are going to be coming back home. And we have thousands of people that have asked for that. Thousands and thousands of people. So many people asked when I was on the campaign, I'd say, wait a minute, I don't have any relationship. But they said, when you can, President, we'd love our son to be brought back home. You know, the remains. And I asked, we had pretty much finished, and I said, would you do me a favor? The remains of these great fallen heroes, could we do something? He agreed to it immediately. It's pretty great.
Why do you think Kim raced to complete his nuclear program and then decide to give it up?
I think psychologically he felt it was important, and I understand that. But again, this should not have been happening now. This should have happened years ago. And I'm not blaming President Obama. I'm saying during Obama, during Bush, during Clinton, this should have happened. Clinton got played. I mean, when you look at what happened, he gave billions of dollars, and it was like just a total waste of money.
So does this summit thing, you seem like you like it, and interacting with these world leaders, G7 got a little rocky, and there was a question about that.
You left the G7 summit a few days ago in Canada having determined that Prime Minister Trudeau is weak and dishonest. What do you say to America's allies who worry that you might be jeopardizing our long-term alliances and who worry that you might be treating our historic friends as enemies and our historic enemies as friends?
I had a very good meeting with the G7, and I left the meeting, and I'll be honest, we are being taken advantage of by virtually every one of those countries, very, very seriously. And we're being taken advantage of on trade. It really wasn't rocky when I left. It was great. In fact, I spoke to Prime Minister Abiy. It was great when I left. I spoke to him just recently. I just told him about what had happened. And he said, it's amazing because you left. It was like, fine. I negotiated a different kind of a deal than they wanted. But I was okay with it, I thought, and then I saw what took place at this news conference. I said, that is not really what happened.
So does this make you want to sit down with Vladimir Putin?
No, but the question was asked by a reporter. It used to be the G8, Russia was included. And about 4 or 5 years ago, they expelled Russia. And a reporter asked me, do you think you'd be better off with Russia? I said, absolutely. You know, we spend probably 25% of our time talking about Russia. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be better if they were here? Now, I'm not for Russia. I'm for the United States. But as an example, if Vladimir Putin was sitting next to me at a table instead of one of the others, and we were having dinner the other night in Canada, I could say, would you do me a favor? Would you get out of Syria? Would you do me a favor? Would you get out of the Ukraine? Get out of Ukraine. You shouldn't be there. Just come on. Now, I think I'd probably have a good relationship with him. Or I'd be able to talk to him better than if you call somebody on a telephone and talk. If I'm sitting like I was with the others, for instance, the new Prime Minister of Italy, he is a great guy. We had a great relationship. He agrees with me on Putin, by the way, I have to tell you. But this wasn't anything that was up for a vote. This was a reporter asking a question. I said, yeah, I think you're better off as a G8 better than a G7. And a lot of people agree with me. But I will tell you, as an example, if he were at that meeting, I could ask him to do things that are good for the world, that are good for our country, that are good for him.
Despite all that he's done to us, you think he's going to...
Yeah, but he didn't... I'm not sticking up for anybody. I'm just saying this. He didn't respect our leadership previously. He walked all over them. Look what he did to Obama with Crimea. He took Crimea. He took Ukraine. Sections of Ukraine.
Which is why he got kicked out of the G8.
No, I know, but he didn't respect our leadership. He didn't respect it. And so, but this wasn't me. You know, people say, well, look what he did. He did it to Obama. Obama should not have allowed that to happen. Even with the voter stuff, supposedly the FBI went to Obama. They told him about it. He didn't do anything about it.
Do you think that North Korea this few days here has changed the dynamic in the midterm elections? And today, where do you think the midterm elections in your head are?
So, Bret, I saw on your show, and I've seen 120 days ago, we were down 16 points. Now I see Reuters has us up 2, and another one was up 6, and one was down 3. I think it's a whole different ballgame. I think the economy is so good. I think the tax cuts have been incredible, far greater than even I thought they'd be. The regulation cuts have been great. I mean, I've done more in 500 days than any president has ever done in their first 500 days. There's nobody close, and that's a lot of people saying that. It's people that would rather not say it are saying it. And I really think that we're going to do very good. Now, history is against me because history, for whatever reason, you win the election and then you lose lots of seats. I think we're going to do very well. I really do. I think the economy is doing so well. We're doing so well as a nation. I think we're going to surprise people. And if you look at the numbers and if you look at the kind of turnouts like Texas, how many people showed up to vote, as an example, how many Republicans showed up to vote, people were very surprised.
Mr. President, your people are a little tired because they can't hang with you 26 hours. So we're going to wrap it up there.
I'm very impressed because we're holding up Air Force One for you.
I know. Thank you, sir.
That's pretty good. That's a big plane to be holding up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bret. Appreciate it.
We appreciate the time. And Mr. President, you're welcome back anytime on Special Report. Still to come, what we can expect from the Inspector General's report into the Hillary Clinton email investigation out Thursday. And up next, we'll go live to the White House for the fallout from the North Korea summit. Good news tonight. President Trump's top economic advisor is out of the hospital. The White House says Larry Kudlow had what was described as a very mild heart attack. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says Kudlow was discharged from Walter Reed Medical Center today. She says doctors say Kudlow's recovery is going very well. The political prognosis for EPA Chief Scott Pruitt may not be so bright. The Washington Post reports Pruitt sought help from Republican donors and others in finding a job for his wife. It reports Pruitt ordered a top aide to work on that project. No response yet from Pruitt on this new reporting, but it does join a long list of reported actions, including the 24/7 security detail, spending $43,000 on a soundproof booth, making costly trip to Morocco, paying below market rent for a condo co-owned by the wife of a lobbyist, paying almost $1,600 for a dozen pens, and using his security detail to do personal tasks. Some of those Pruitt has responded to directly, others he has not. We'll continue to follow a response to this latest reporting. As we told you at the top of the program, President Trump says there is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. He's also defending his decision to halt U.S. military exercises with South Korea during negotiations with Kim Jong-un's government. All of it is creating, as you can imagine, quite a stir on Capitol Hill. Correspondent Kevin Cork has tonight's report from the White House.
After more than 45 hours on the ground and another 22 in the air, President Trump returned from his historic Singapore summit with Kim Jong-un amid strong headwinds of skepticism that the summit produced plenty of declarations by the White House, but far few details. But that didn't stop the president from unleashing a tweet storm of optimism, declaring the world has taken a big step back from potential nuclear catastrophe. There's no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea, before adding, North Korea was our biggest and most dangerous problem. No longer. Sleep well tonight. The president has come under stinging criticism in some corners because of the 1.5-page statement that he and Kim Jong-un signed in Singapore spelled out no specific commitments from the North, aside from working toward the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, a promise that the regime has repeatedly made and broken since the 1990s. On Capitol Hill, a furious debate over whether or not the president gave away far more than he extracted from the meeting raged on today, with members on both sides of the political spectrum expressing skepticism.
The summit was much more show than substance, what the Texans call all cattle, no hat. After all the pomp and circumstance have faded, it seems clear that Chairman Kim walked away the victor, unfortunately.
This is a country that's made promises before and has broken them. And we're not talking about promises here regarding, minor items. These are nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles that have the capability of reaching the United States.
The president should be applauded for disrupting the status quo. Now, let's go get an agreement. And we should be under no delusion that this is going to be fast.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says he expects North Korea to take major steps toward nuclear disarmament during President Trump's first term, telling reporters in Seoul, we're hopeful that we can achieve that in the next 2.5 years, before adding, there's a lot of work left to do. Asked why the words verifiable and irreversible were not in that document signed by the two leaders in Singapore, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said today because the words complete denuclearization were in the document. That encompasses both. Bret?
Kevin Cork, live on the North Lawn. Kevin, thank you. Up next, what to expect from the Inspector General's report on the Hillary Clinton email investigation out tomorrow. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 29 in San Antonio, as authorities find more than 50 undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, in a tractor trailer. Personnel from several agencies were called to a neighborhood across from San Antonio's airport last night. 5 people were transported to a hospital for injuries they sustained while trying to run out of that truck. Fox 31 in Denver as a wildfire erupts in an area of Colorado known for its ski resorts. Officials ordered the evacuation of more than 1,300 homes there. It's the latest in a series of blazes that have ignited in the drought-stricken West. And this is a live look at the Twin Cities from our affiliate Fox 9. One of the big stories there tonight, you may have seen this, a raccoon causing quite a stir on social media. Scaling an office building in St. Paul. It reached up to 23 stories before stopping to groom itself and apparently take a nap on the ledge there. The raccoon eventually made it to the roof and was captured by Wildlife Management Service Animal Control. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back. The former head of security for the Senate Intelligence Committee was in court today. James Wolfe is charged with lying to investigators about his contacts with reporters. He pleaded not guilty. Wolfe's lawyer says he will file a motion to limit public officials, including President Trump, from commenting on the case to the media. We are just a day away from the anticipated release of an Inspector General's report on the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But we also have major news tonight concerning the president's personal attorney and his own legal issues. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is here tonight to fill in the blanks. Good evening, Catherine.
Oh, thank you, Bret. Two sources familiar with the matter told Fox News that Michael Cohen is changing lawyers and cautioned against drawing conclusions that Cohen is in fact cutting a deal. ABC News reported earlier today that the president's longtime personal attorney is likely to cooperate as he faces looming criminal charges separate from the Russia special counsel probe. Cohen faces a Friday deadline by a federal judge to review several million documents seized by the government. An issue is whether the records are protected under attorney-client privilege. The law office did not respond to requests for comment from Fox News. Bret.
You know, Catherine, we broke the story last night here on Special Report about a heated meeting in January between senior FBI and Justice Department officials and the House Intelligence Committee, where threats were allegedly made with strong reaction from both sides today. Fill us in on that.
Well, that's right. Senior Republican lawmakers responded to allegations that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein threatened to subpoena records and turn the tables on the Republican-led House Intelligence Committee and staff over the Russia case.
It is deeply concerning that instead of having a cooperative relationship with this agency, respectful of the importance of the Congress having access to documents regarding matters that they're investigating, that they have oversight responsibility for, and this is not the way to conduct that.
Both the FBI and Justice Department dispute the characterization. A Justice Department official said Rosenstein never threatened anyone with a criminal investigation. On Tucker Carlson last night, the Attorney General, who was not at the January meeting, backed his deputy's account.
I'm confident that Deputy Rosenstein, 28 years in the Department of Justice, did not improperly threaten anyone on that occasion. But we do believe that we have tried to be cooperative with them.
Congressional leadership known as the Gang of Eight is expected to get another FBI and Justice Department brief tomorrow, but Republicans say only the records will satisfy their subpoena. Bret.
And lastly, that Inspector General's report on the Clinton emails released tomorrow, we expect, right?
Oh, that's right. There will be a series of closed-door briefings to include President Trump as well as congressional committees. The investigation that began nearly 18 months ago examines allegations of misconduct by FBI and Justice Department officials over their handling of the Clinton email case. Democrats supported the independent review because they blame former FBI Director James Comey for derailing Hillary Clinton's campaign when he reopened the criminal case about 10 days before the election. Republicans felt Clinton should have been prosecuted for mishandling classified information, but Comey gave her a pass. The Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz cannot bring criminal charges, but he can make what's called a criminal referral, where a U.S. attorney reviews the evidence and considers whether a prosecution is justified. The report is said to be more than 500 pages in length, and it should be available online and to the public later tomorrow afternoon. Bret.
Full coverage tomorrow. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
President Trump is calling out Middle Eastern oil ministers' high gasoline prices. This morning, the president tweeted, quote, "Oil prices are too high. OPEC is at it again. Not good." AAA reports the current price for a gallon of self-service regular is $2.91. That's up from $2.33 1 year ago. The Federal Reserve, meantime, is raising its benchmark interest rate for the second time this year. The new range is from 1 3/4 to 2%. Stocks were down on that news. The Dow lost 120, the S&P 500 dropped 11, the Nasdaq fell 8. We could be entering an era of media mega mergers. The approval of AT&T's $85 billion takeover of Time Warner may now open the floodgates to all sorts of deals. Let's talk about what might come next and how that might work and affect your family, possibly. Elizabeth McDonald of Fox Business Network joins us tonight from New York. Good evening, Elizabeth.
Good to be with you, Bret. Yes, the talk on Wall Street is of a new media merger wave. Now, evidence of that is in the shares in the merger targets. They basically rose on Wall Street. This is all about getting in the door the millennials and the baby boomers. Cord cutters with interesting content. It's also about merging the guys who own the pipes into our living rooms with the guys who create that content in order to get the millennials and baby boomers into their shops. Now, in this deal, AT&T now owns Time Warner's CNN, HBO, including the Game of Thrones, TBS, Warner Brothers, and DC Comics.
So what are some of the other companies Wall Street's talking about tonight?
You know, it's really interesting. The mergers at play, including T-Mobile's plan to buy Sprint, bids by Disney, and now a new $65 billion all-cash bid from Comcast for certain assets of 21st Century Fox. Is a bidding war there. Also, Sinclair Broadcast purchase of Tribune. And also, you know, Bret, the other thing, too, is content companies like Netflix and Amazon are also always talked about. And other companies at play could include CBS, Viacom, Discovery, AMC Networks, Lionsgate Entertainment. And, you know, Bret, the talk also has been about Apple, its big mountain of cash. Apple could easily buy Netflix. Netflix market value, though, is now larger than Disney. It could easily eat up the majority of Apple's cash. That would be a gigantic marquee deal if it ever did happen. That's the talk on Wall Street.
Yeah, that's a lot of deals potentially. 21st Century Fox, obviously the parent company of Fox News Channel. Is there concern our costs and fees for internet streaming are somehow going to go up because of all this?
Yeah, there is concern over potentially higher internet bills that the people out there will face. At the same time, another interesting move. The Trump administration just got rid of Obama-era internet rules that stopped the guys who own the TV pipelines from slowing down streaming content or charging more for faster streaming. Now, companies like AT&T theoretically could charge Netflix or Amazon more to stream at the same speeds they do now. And then those companies could pass those fees on to consumers, but that's down the road.
Okay, Elizabeth, we'll be watching it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
4 stars have been added to the memorial wall at Central Intelligence Agency headquarters in Virginia. The CIA says it held a ceremony to honor 4 distinguished officers who died in the line of duty. The agency does not release the names of the personnel or their missions. There are now 129 stars on the memorial wall. Well, it was a very good night, primary night, for Republicans aligned with President Trump. The biggest win came in South Carolina, where the president's support may have helped lift the challenger over an incumbent congressman in the GOP race there. Correspondent Jonathan Sari has the specifics tonight.
Katie Arrington was overjoyed by her upset victory over incumbent Congressman Mark Sanford in South Carolina's District 1 Republican primary.
We are the party of President Donald J. Trump.
Tuesday, President Trump tweeted his support for Arrington, saying in part, "Mark Sanford has been very unhelpful to me in my campaign to make America great again. He is MIA and nothing but trouble. He is better off in Argentina." Back in 2009, then Governor Sanford admitted to traveling to South America for an extramarital affair. 2 years after completing his second term as governor, Sanford reclaimed the congressional seat he held in the 1990s. Sanford usually sided with Trump's agenda, but was unafraid to criticize the president when he disagreed.
A lot of people would come up to me over the course of this campaign. They say, "You for or against Trump?" And I'd say, "I'm neither for nor against Trump. I'm for ideas that I've long stood for over the entirety of my time in politics, based on limited government.
To go and bash the president on CNN isn't helpful. We need to go up to Washington and do the people's work.
Sanford is not the only Republican hurt in primaries for criticizing the president. In Alabama, Martha Roby, a four-term congresswoman, was forced into a runoff. And in races around the nation, GOP candidates have been jockeying for position as most loyal to Trump.
When you're in primary season, again, it's usually a good thing not to be at odds with the most important elected official in your party.
Sanford is the second House Republican to lose a primary this election cycle. The first is Congressman Robert Pittenger of North Carolina, who lost his primary back in May. Bret?
Jonathan, thank you. The lineup is set for one of the fall's most important Senate races. It's in Nevada. Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt reports tonight from Las Vegas.
Certainly the path to take back the Senate runs right through Nevada.
Neither Democrat candidate Jackie Rosen nor incumbent Republican Senator Dean Heller are under any illusions over the significance of the Nevada Senate seat they're fighting for.
I want to be the reason why the Republicans have the majority in the United States Senate.
It's likely to be an expensive and bitter battle, with first-term Congresswoman Rosen already defending her relative lack of political experience while portraying her veteran opponent as a flip-flopper.
The main thing that I'm going to do is try to hold Dean Heller to his positions, because in the past he's been for things and now he's against them.
Heller dismisses that line of attack.
I've done exactly what I said I was going to do in Washington, D.C., every step of the way.
And Heller says he believes President Trump will be an asset to him in the election. In the race to be Nevada governor, Republican State Attorney General Adam Laxalt will take on Democrat Clark County Commission Chairman Steve Sisolak in what both call a stark choice.
We both agree on one thing. Nevada families cannot afford to let Adam Laxalt become our next governor.
This is a choice between leadership and cronyism. Real solutions or a radical agenda that would take our unique state the way of California. Are we going to let that happen?
And because this is Nevada, we would be remiss not to mention that the nation's most famous pimp, Dennis Hoff, owner of the Bunny Ranch and star of the HBO reality show Cat House, won the Republican primary to run for the state legislature. Bret?
Jonathan Hunt in Vegas. Jonathan, thanks. A proposal to split California into 3 states will be on the November ballot. You heard that right, 3 states. The initiative has received more than enough petition signatures to qualify. The measure would create the states of Northern California, Southern California, and a narrow Central Coast strip retaining the name California. Even if voters approve, it would still require passage in the state legislature and then, of course, in Congress. Next up, the panel with reaction to the summit, President Trump's comments aboard Air Force One, and what's next.
People are really happy about it. Even, I would say, non-Trump fans, people are really happy. It's something that I'm very proud of. Now, with that being said, I want to get it done. But I believe that Chairman Kim wants to get it done. I think we've done something very historic already in one way, but to me, a success is when it gets done.
The president needed to disrupt the status quo, and the president has disrupted the status quo. He should be applauded for doing that. Time will tell how this ends.
Chairman Kim achieved far more than President Trump did. The summit was much more show than substance, what the Texans call all cattle, no hat.
No. It's all hat, no cattle. So I don't know if Senator Schumer lost the Texas vote there with that phrase turn, but all hat, no cattle. That was how the Democrats described the North Korea summit. Here's how the North Koreans described the day after from state media.
Showing his understanding, the President of the United States expressed his willingness to stop the U.S.-South Korea joint military exercises, which the North Korean side regards as provocation during the times of North Korea-U.S. dialogue, and also expressed his willingness to provide security guarantees to North Korea and lift sanctions against it as the relationship improves through dialogues and negotiations.
Now, they say all kinds of things, but we thought we'd bring you that the day after this summit. What about the fallout from it and what comes next? Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard, Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, and Eli Lake, columnist for Bloomberg View. Okay, a lot of reaction, Molly, on Capitol Hill. Some positive from Republicans saying it needed, you heard the speaker there, others saying they're concerned that things are still on the table, and you hear the world reacting that maybe Kim got everything he wanted.
Right, you're hearing a lot of poo-pooing, a lot of claims that Kim got everything he wanted. The fact is, we really don't know what will come out of this deal. We have a light framework. All of it will be worked out in the details. We will need to see substantive talks. They'll need to move quickly, but it could actually take many months, many years to achieve what we need to see. This is a good start, and at worst, it's a neutral. At best, it's a very good start, but we have to work out a lot of particulars.
What struck you in that interview, Steve?
I was struck by the president once again saying that he wants to get U.S. troops home, which I think the North Koreans have been asking for a long time, looks to be a concession. I was also struck by his answer, or probably better phrased, his non-answer on human rights. You pressed him on it twice. The first time, he sort of dodged the question and then found a way to praise Kim Jong-un for his strength and his toughness. The second time, he downplayed human rights abuses in North Korea by saying, yeah, basically everybody is guilty of some things. He could go through a long list of nations that have those problems. So I was struck by that. The other parts of it, I think, on the North Korea, on the denuclearization question itself, was consistent with what he heard. He's obviously very proud of himself.
Eli.
Well, call me old-fashioned, but I like to believe America is a beacon of democracy and freedom, and that when the American elected president meets with tyrants like Kim Jong-un, there should be, at the very least, a refrain not to go out of his way to basically lie about the nature of this person. And at one point he said in another interview, the North Korean people loved Kim Jong-un. We know that's not true. And in your interview, this kind of thing where you're saying, well, there's a lot of bad people that do a lot of bad things, that is a sentiment that we normally associate with Noam Chomsky and the hard left, that try to explain away and rationalize the horrors of these Stalinists like Kim Jong-un. As a general rule, I don't really like that kind of thing, and of course it would be great if you got a deal that got rid of the nuclear, and I'm not saying don't do diplomacy, but I don't think that Trump needed to go as far as he did in his flattery.
I too wish that President Trump had spoken against the human rights abuses in North Korea.
He did speak, we're told, in the summit behind closed doors about human rights.
I wish he would speak more when we talk to him about it now. But it's also true that what he is attempting to achieve right now is a positive pitch. He's trying to paint a vision for Kim that he has a different path that should be going. And his goal, President Trump's goal, is to make sure that the people of Portland aren't bombed by North Korea. You have this thing with neoconservatism, militarism, fused with moral idealism that seeks to achieve everything but ends up accomplishing nothing, and doing so at a huge cost of blood and money. And so I think it's important that we understand we have our national interest here. We want to keep from getting into a nuclear war, and we will hopefully substantively deal with human rights abuses, which are serious and need to be dealt with. But that's not our first concern.
Well, if I may respond, an old neocon militarist by the name of Ronald Reagan managed to negotiate arms control agreements and have a relationship with Soviet premiers and still keep a laser-like focus on the dissidents who were rotting in their gulags. And when the Soviet Union fell, that was something that many of those former dissidents, when they were free, remembered. They said it was something that gave them hope. I'm sorry, but I hold out that kind of expectation. I'm not expecting a negotiation where Kim Jong-un suddenly becomes a Jeffersonian Democrat. I understand that's not going to happen. But at the same time, there's a difference between that and having an American president basically become, in some ways, sort of, part of the dictator's lie about his popularity with his own people.
Is there some of this that is, what if? What if 3 summits down the road it really does happen? What if the paradigm has shifted? What if the people who were looking at this as a breakthrough are the right ones, and the ones that are very scared about the potential are the wrong ones?
Yeah, look, that's possible. Anything's possible, right, at this point. But I think you don't have to be a realist or a so-called realist to recognize that it's a problem for the President of the United States to say things that aren't true. The President came back and tweeted that North Korea was no longer a nuclear threat. That's
just landed, long trip, but everyone can now feel much safer than the day I took office. There is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. Meeting Kim Jong-un was an interesting and very positive experience. North Korea has great potential for the future. nuclear. Before taking office, people were assuming that we were going to war with North Korea. President Obama said North Korea was our biggest and most dangerous problem. No longer sleep well tonight. We save a fortune by not doing war games as long as we are negotiating in good faith, which both sides are.
Right, and realists and non-interventionists pride themselves on seeing the world as it is. That's the whole basis of their philosophy. That is not describing the world as it is. North Korea, it remains a first-order threat. North Korea still has nuclear weapons. North Korea still has a tyrant dictator as its leader. They present a threat to the United States. There's no getting around that. And for the President of the United States to come back, however proud he is of what he's done, and say that North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat, that's a problem. 4 months ago, going into this, before the summit was announced, the position of the administration was, we won't even talk to the North Koreans unless they take concrete, verifiable steps towards denuclearization. They just abandoned that, which is its own concession. And now, 4 months later, with the only intervening event being the signing of a document by a dictator whose forebears have lied about things for 30 years, they're now saying there's no more nuclear threat.
Yeah, I think you're just seeing a lot of frustration that things have gone so well. A lot of people said that everything that Donald Trump was doing would not go well for him or for the United States. His bellicose tweeting supposedly had us on the brink of nuclear war. We all see what happened in the summit. We're not naive. It's not like the nuclear weapons magically disappeared, but we saw that we have a very good start, and if it doesn't continue to go well, we will have to renegotiate.
Do you think North Korea is a nuclear threat still?
Everyone understands.
Okay, the president said that the opposite.
What we all know is that we had very good talks, that we have a good framework, that we have a good way to proceed.
Do you disagree with the president's assertion?
You know, there is something about taking him literally and taking him figuratively, and the tweets and what they mean, and reading between Trump language. I mean, there is all that you have to factor in. But you're right. It's still a nuclear threat tonight. There's no doubt about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, we can decide that we don't want to, for our own reasons, take President Trump's words literally. That is not a luxury that the rest of the world has, and I guarantee you it's not something that Kim Jong-un is, and it puts Mike Pompeo in a box, who's now got the very difficult task of constructing a verification regime when the president has already declared that there's no longer a threat.
I would argue that the American people have far less trouble understanding President Trump than a select few here in this town do.
I got 10 seconds.
Well, we'll see what happens, but I don't think the president should be taking a victory lap. Look at President Obama's deal with Syria and nuclear and chemical weapons. We saw how well that did.
All right, there you have it. When we come back, a long run for a good cause.